All right, folks, so if you followed the channel for any amount of time, you know I have tried many different shower systems. In fact, even have a fairly elaborate one built into the van. But when it comes down to it, we pretty much only use this Geyser system now. Geyser has two shower systems, one that heats the water for you and one that you have to heat your own water. I have the one that you have to heat your own water because the other system took too long to get the water up to temp, in my opinion. So like I said, this has become my go-to shower system. At first I was somewhat skeptical and a bit slow in trying it out. I first gave it a good go in Arizona when I went to the Overland Expo in Flagstaff. After a few uses, it gained a permanent spot in the van. I love that I can just open my doors, jump out, get a quick shower with little to no setup or tear down. But the fact that I can get a shower clean feeling with less than a gallon of water is what sold me on this system. Alright, so let's go through a couple of specs. You can of course find all these specs on Geyser's website. The dimensions on the unit is 9.5 by 6.25 by 17 inches tall. It weighs around 8 pounds empty and 15 pounds full. The volume they say is 0.8 gallons, but I've only been able to get 100 to about 105 ounces, which actually equates closer to 7 or a little over 0.7 gallons of water. The voltage that is required to run the unit is 12 volts. I, of course, use my Jackery, but you can use any cigarette lighter output. You can get 1 to 15 minutes of shower time, but that is going to be fully dependent on how you have the flow control set. The temp range of the pump is 35 to 112 degrees. If it gets above 112 degrees, the pump will shut off and there will be an LED indicating that on the top of the unit. Alright guys, so let's quickly go over the Geyser system so you guys can understand how it works. Now like I said, this is the non-heated version of the Geyser, so you have to heat your own water on a stove. So what I typically do is I put a bush pot full of cold water into the cylinder and 1 bush pot full of boiling water. You can fit about 100 to 105 ounces within this cylinder. And then across the top here you have some LEDs that will kind of indicate what's going on with the system. So you have a power on LED, which obviously tells you have power. You have a low water when blinking. That blinks when you start to run out of water, so it kind of lets you know that it's time to start wrapping up your shower. You have an LED that will tell you that your water is below temperature or below 95 degrees. And then you have a LED that says you're above 95 degrees. Now, if you get above 113 degrees, it will disable the pump and make the system not work, and you will have an LED that says basically your water is too hot and unsafe. Here you have your power switch, so you can turn the pump on and off, and then it has a little protective cover so that way you can't accidentally turn it on when you don't want it on. Alright, so here you have your hose. It's on a quick connect, so you can just plug it in. It does have a little twist so that you can lock it so that it doesn't come out. And then it goes out to your sponge. So basically when you turn the pump on, it puts your warm water through the hose and comes out the sponge. You do have a little control knob here that allows you to control how much flow comes out. You also have a power cable. It's really long, so you basically can plug it into your cigarette lighter in your vehicle and then have plenty of cord to be able to kind of position the Geyser wherever you want to take your shower. Using the system is pretty straightforward. There are a few ways you can go about it, but what I like to do is just fill the main reservoir with cold water all the way to the top first. If you're using creek water like you see me doing here, make sure it's free of sediment. If it's not, use a good filter system because any sediment could get into the pump and cause problems. This creek is crystal clear, so a filter wasn't necessary. I then pour off around 30 to 40 ounces of water into my bush pot to boil. Now this will of course depend on the ambient temperature of the cold water. The creek I pulled from is fairly cold, so 40 ounces is going to be perfect to get me above 95 degrees. But I have had situations where I pulled water from the van after a hot day and I only needed 20 ounces to get it up above 95. The next step is purely optional, but I like to seal the lid tight and then shake the unit a couple times to mix the hot and cold water. At this point, I recommend loosening the lid. If you don't, you may end up getting a vacuum inside and it makes the lid hard to get off, and I've even had situations where it stopped the pump completely. Connect the main hose to the unit using the quick connect, and then connect your sponge to the hose. Don't twist too hard or you can damage the connector. It's a simple counterclockwise quarter turn to lock it into place. Set the flow control on the hose. I find a setting of about 1 to 7 o'clock works well to get me soaped up and still leave me plenty of water to get rinsed off. I prefer to use this Castile liquid soap. You can of course use whatever you want, but I find this really works well with the sponge. A small amount is going to be all you need. Don't overdo it or you'll waste a lot of water rinsing the sponge off, and yes, I have made this mistake. Okay, so at this point you're all ready to go, so just start the pump and start washing. I typically start with my head and work my way down. After I'm completely soaped up, I just start wringing the sponge, which not only rinses the soap out of the sponge, but also rinses me as well. So at this point the light hasn't even started blinking yet, and I'm pretty much done. I'm all rinsed off. So you can see for a regular person with just short hair, it has plenty of water with the little over 0.7 gallons. And like I said, at this point I'm just kind of enjoying the rest of the shower. Alright folks, so now that we've gone through and demonstrated how the system works, let's talk about a couple of cons that I have found with the system. So if you're a person with long hair, you're probably not going to be able to get a full shower with just one setup. You're able to get your body done, but it'll probably take a whole nother setup in order to be able to do your hair. Someone with short hair like myself, I can have no problem doing it with one setup. The second con is if you have this completely screwed down and you got a good seal, sometimes you can get a major vacuum going on in the cylinder, and that will cause it to stop pumping water. So I always suggest that you kind of have it loose or just have the cap on so it can suck air in as it's pumping water. So I think in another rendition, I'd like to see a one-way check valve on top here so that way it could pull air in and not get that vacuum. The third con that I have found is if you do overheat the system, like you get the water too hot and you trip the pump off switch, it's very difficult to get it to cool down in order to actually take a shower with it. And in most cases, I've had to just empty the system and start over. So be very careful about not overheating the water and tripping that pump off connection. Alright folks, so like I said in the beginning of the video, even though I do have other shower systems, and like I said, a very elaborate one built into the van, this has just become my go-to. It's so quick and easy, and it just doesn't use much water, which really is valuable when you're out in different places that you're not using up lots of your water supply. Now in the case here, we do have a creek, so I have all the water in the world, but I still find myself just going to this because of how quick and easy it is. I tell people that when you're using it, it's not like taking a real shower, but when you're done, it definitely feels like you've had a real shower. You feel very clean and you feel like you just stepped out of a real shower. So I do like it a lot in that case. Now, I'm not trying to sell you guys this system. I just wanted you guys to have some facts and kind of see how it works. But if you do decide that this is something that you want, I do have an affiliate link down below. It really does help the channel. So if you choose to buy this system, if you use that affiliate link, I really appreciate it. If you guys found something about this, this video helpful in helping you make your decision on whether a geyser will work for your van life or camping or overlanding experience, then please do give the video a like. If you have any comments or questions about the system that maybe I didn't address here, definitely leave those down below, and we'll catch you guys again outside.